Welcome to Maximize Excellence, where exceptional leaders share leadership philosophies about research, disciplines, habits, decisions, and experiences that help them shape lasting contribution and create extraordinary impact. I am your host, Lori Harris, and today we're exploring how our guest maximizes excellence every day. So let's begin. Today's guest is someone whose work has been advancing value, growth, and opportunity for women leaders in the workplace for over 3 decades and advancing business vitality throughout the United States. As CEO of Hummingbird Creative Group, a brand strategy agency founded in 1995, Wendy Coulter is committed to providing clients insightful big ideas, intuitive innovation, and inspired creative solutions. With over 35 years of sales, marcom, and branding experience, Wendy's calling is to help clients more effectively communicate the positioning of their business, differentiate their brands, and grow revenue. She has grown Hummingbird by helping clients shift brand equity from the business owner to the business entity, strengthening the company's promise, presence, and profitability over time. As a champion of women business owners, Wendy also is founder of the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame. She founded it in 2018. And she established this organization to honor North Carolina's most successful female entrepreneurs and advocates who have made significant and enduring contributions to impact women's entrepreneurial development in North Carolina. I am very honored to host today's podcast with Wendy Coulter. Wendy, welcome to Maximize Excellence. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Lori. It's great to be here. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show. Excellence is what we're all about on so many levels. And so I think I'm going to love this conversation.
So today we're going to talk about the anatomy of lasting value as it relates to branding, resilient leadership, and carving pathways for women leaders. And we're going to break it into 3 sections or 3 parts. We're going to focus first on building business value through branding. And then we're going to move into lessons from 3 decades of business ownership with Wendy. And then we're going to wrap it up with mentorship, legacy, and elevating women leaders out there in the world of work. So Wendy, are you ready to get started?
Yes, I'm ready, Lori. Let's go. Let's go.
So, defining value beyond the logo. You've spent decades helping businesses scale. And in your experience, how does a strategic brand move from being a marketing expense to a core driver of actual business value and equity?
So, in my experience, a lot of business leaders really look at brand still today. In a world where we talk about brand a lot, they really still look at brand as the logo, the colors, the textures, the graphic design elements, and all of that. And what we bring to our customers here at Hummingbird is the idea behind brand as a strategy. It ties directly to your business goals. It also is something that can increase your business valuation if done right. So creating a strong brand orientation is a really important strategic piece of running a business. And so stop thinking so much about the logo and the colors and start thinking about the business goals and the different target markets that you really need to focus on, what your value proposition is for those target markets. It is a lot of marketing 101, but we still see so many business owners and even marketing leaders missing the boat on this. And I think some of it is because there is so much today that we can do tactically. But will it move the needle? Because if you haven't set goals and really thought about your marketing and sales and how they tie together at a strategic level to meet goals, you're just doing stuff. You're doing a bunch of social media, you're doing a bunch of SEO, but you don't have that focus. And so what we want to do is help brands really focus in so that they can increase that valuation.
So, from a founder brand to an enterprise brand, you talk about shifting brand equity from the business owner to the business entity. Why does that matter, particularly for a founder who's eventually wanting to scale, to sell, or to transition leadership, or even build something that survives beyond them, that legacy piece?
Yeah, great question. And you said it. It really is the desire to scale that makes it so important to shift from the business owner to the entity in terms of what the brand is. An example is we met with a woman a couple of years ago. She was a CPA. She was a QuickBooks consultant, and her company name was her name.
Uh-huh.
But she was getting to a place in her business where she was thinking about, what am I going to do next? I'm not sure I want the business anymore. I might want to sell the business. And we were able to really work with her to understand, if you've built a strong brand, we spoke with her customers. They talked about the whole team. They didn't just talk about her.
Yeah.
And, we said, you've built a great brand. So we need to take some of what these clients are saying about your firm and create a communications plan and a brand that reflects that. And you're
Uh-huh.
going to be able to sell for more money. Well, not only did she sell for a higher multiple, but she also sold a lot faster than I think she ever anticipated being able to sell. And it wasn't just selling a book of business. It was selling that brand and that promise and that culture that she had created that was so much bigger than her, but she wasn't expressing that outwardly in her communications and her marketing.
Wendy, it's fun because Harris Whitesell Consulting, we're focused on people in the organization. And we always say that if the people in the organization do not understand the company philosophies, the mission, the vision, the value statements, the overarching strategy and how they fit into that,
Right.
it matters greatly. And it also matters greatly because when there's understanding and commitment to that, there's intentionality, and therefore we deliver on the mission, and
That's
we
right.
do it with great value, right? And we do it collaboratively, co-creating for collective results. So I can see why, when we're representing the company brand in the marketplace, that story of who we are collectively and what we do, and why we do what we do and how we do what we do truly matters, right?
Well, and the impact on the team of that shift from business owner to business entity is huge. They're no
Yes.
longer there just representing you as the owner. They're there representing a common goal that they've been a part of and that they are helping to build. And so it really does, it changes culture when you start to make that kind of shift, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In so many companies, we go in and do culture inventories and culture effectiveness inventories, and we do a lot of evaluation and assessment and bring in the science and the data before we prescribe anything and diagnose anything. And I find it fascinating that a lot of people confuse engagement with culture. And I'll just leave that here because question I want to ask you, it kind of is around that. So the excellence alignment that we're diving into here, the brand promise becomes that human behavior. A brand promise is ultimately delivered or broken through people. So what has to happen inside the organization for employees to understand the brand, believe in it, and consistently translate it into the customer and even stakeholder experience? And where the brand breaks down, when you see a strong internal brand, but a very different employee or customer experience or stakeholder experience, whether it's internally or externally, where do you usually find that disconnect?
Yeah, that disconnect is definitely between it really lives in that vision
Yeah.
space, right?
Yes.
And so it lives with leadership. And, we see a lot of core values pushed that the leadership team aren't necessarily living, and therefore the team can't live it either.
Right.
And so we do a lot of activities around mission, vision, core values, and then core behaviors. And behaviors have to be driven from values. I think it's so interesting to look at core values as a leader and really ask yourself the question, can we live this?
Mhm.
Not just should this be our core value, but can we live it? Are we living it every day? Am I going to hold people accountable? Am I going to hold vendors accountable? Am I going to hold clients accountable? Obviously, am I going to hold my team accountable? But core values are something that have to like really interweave all the parts of the relationships, internal, external, all of that. And when that breaks, it's usually pretty obvious, and
Mhm.
you can almost always tie it back to some kind of break in core values. And so I believe that a brand promise has to come out of core values that are being lived through core behaviors, not just core values that are up on a wall somewhere. And that's where I think there's such a big difference with different companies and the way that they do that.
Yeah, and it absolutely plays out when we, like I was saying, when we do these inventories and these assessment, it plays out in those causal factors. And it's quite fascinating. We can even see it at the organization level, the group level, and the individual level. So we know where it lives and how it's living. And it's quite phenomenal. And it does absolutely provide that opening gate and the opportunity for that organization to realign itself and really significantly make a difference in the marketplace. So the work you do is vital, vital, vital. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
really agree with that. Yeah.
branding in times of disruption, we're
Mm,
living it, right? We're living it and breathing it to the nth degree right now, as we always have. However, I think right now it's exponentially sensitive in a lot of ways. Branding isn't static. How should your leaders approach evolving, pivoting their brand identity when the market or the business model undergoes massive shifts or the relevance that requires reinvention? So
yeah,
30
we've had
years,
a lot of that. We've
yeah.
had a lot of that recently, right? So we're working with a lot of brands who are finding themselves in a state
Hmm.
of we can't say things the way we used to say things.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Sure.
and it's on both sides of the way we express or the way we use language. It may be something we're in support of, we can't support it the same way, or something we're opposed to, we can't oppose it the same way. Names of organizations are changing around us right now. We're working on some rebrands now of organizations that are having to make significant changes in order to still get funding or to still have clients who are willing to work with them, more because of how they're being perceived as well. Okay, so there's all these layers happening right now. I would say leaders need to approach evolution and change head on.
Uh-huh.
But they also have to be open to the fact that they may not be able to do it the way that they always have in the past and the way that they think that it should be done. And I think that the marketing and business leaders that I see really succeeding kind of open up the conversation and take a lot of different perspectives into play before they make that decision or before they try to stand their ground. And I mean we've all been there, right? A brand has to stand for something. And so
Yes.
I'm not saying don't continue to stand for what you stood for, but think about different ways to communicate it. You have to continue to be a clear communicator, especially in times of disruption. So that's the most important time to communicate well. And there are so many nuances to language and what we mean. I mean, I can be talking to one team member and say something and they hear it a little bit different than the other team member sitting in front of me. That doesn't mean I said it different. That just means their interpretation is different. So remember that your target market may interpret things differently. Your supporters may interpret things differently. And you've just got to continue to nuance that until you find the right message and communication for the time. Branding absolutely isn't static. There are so many triggers to needing to make an adjustment in your branding. And so just don't be afraid of it. I think so many people are like, well, the logo police are going to come along. We can't change, this, right? And those police don't really exist. There are some pretty tight marketing directors who do want to maintain consistency, but consistency can be talked about and
Yeah.
can be adjusted for the time and the right purpose.
And it's
Yeah.
no different with leadership capability. We're talking about resilience and adaptability and flexibility, all those
All of
keywords
those things.
and behavior. Yeah. I'm curious though, you've had 3 decades, Wendy. What have you had to unlearn in order to remain relevant just with your own brand?
Ooh, what have I had to unlearn?
Yeah.
I've had to unlearn that people are supposed to be in an office 8 hours a day, 5 days a week at their desk, available to other people so that you can walk into their office and talk to them. Like, I've had
Yes.
to unlearn that because that's hard for my generation in a lot of ways too, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's not even just the 8 to 5. I mean, I came up in a time when who could work the most overtime to prove that they were the person who deserved the most, right? And our all of everyone's perspective on life. I think COVID and that time frame changed a lot, but we all are more we're loving that technology enables us to be able to spend time with families and work remotely while we're traveling and do those different things. So I think it's a wonderful change in the world. At the same time, it has been an unlearning. A lot of the ways that I've had to learn to manage people have changed over the years. And I think that's the hardest unlearning because it's almost the hardest learning to begin with is how to manage people. And then it all changes all of the time. And so I'd say just about any unlearning I've had to do has really been in that space. The other side of it has been about money and profit and managing to a bottom line profit number, and realizing the different impacts on that maybe you don't expect to be impacts on that, and how to really like delve down into impact on finance that I couldn't have got my hands around that when I was younger. So that's been some unlearning as well and relearning, in order to stay here for 30 years. And then in order to be a profitable, sustainable business for my clients, my team members, my family, like it's a new level there. Yeah.
So we're going to jump in because this is a good connection to part two. And from here, we're going to go into lessons from the 30 years of business of ownership. So it just kind of set the foundation. And on that 30-year horizon, this is big. It's something to celebrate. The longevity in business ownership is a rare feat. And what are the core disciplines? What are the core habits and behaviors you've practiced that has allowed you to sustain your energy, your relevance, and your excellence for 3 decades?
So I think anyone who has met me knows I have more energy than most people in the world, and I don't control that. I am very, very happy that I was born with energy. I came out running, and I love how energy feeds. So when I do find myself like maybe not doing the habits I should do, I know that if I just start doing something, everything else is going to follow. And so when I get myself in a funk and I haven't done something that I know I need to do and I procrastinated for whatever reason, I know I just need to get the energy moving. And that can be a number of different things for me. I'm an extrovert, and so it can be getting out amongst people. It can just be saying, okay, you've got to do this, and with this, other things will follow. I am not an extraordinarily habitual person, so I've had to work really hard on creating habits, especially I mentioned finance earlier, making sure I'm looking at things pretty regularly. I don't know that I would still call it a habit, but just regularly asking the questions and being in there. I think relevance goes back to that willingness to change. My industry has changed so much. I was talking to someone earlier today. Our tech stack, like when I look at the number of softwares that we are using in the marketing space today, I don't think there are many like areas of business that have to engage with as big of a tech stack. We're engaging in AI for writing, but we're also engaging in learning how to write for different target markets and how tone of voice plays out and all of that. You've got design programs. You've got the clients who are now trying to use different programs like Canva. You've got all the social media platforms that I'm supposed to know everything about all of them. You've got SEO, which is very complicated, and all the tools that you use to analyze all of the data and all of that. And so being relevant in my space and for me has been all about learning. That discovery is a core value at Hummingbird, where we're just encouraging each other to learn every day and then cross share that information. So I'm all the time coming and saying, hey, I listened to a podcast this morning. What do y'all think about this? Or one of my team members may be saying, hey, we did some learning on this yesterday and you can go listen to it. And I sent you the link. I think being willing to learn and learning at every turn is the only way I've been able to stay relevant. And that's learning about everything, not just marketing, but about business trends, about politics, about socioeconomic, about everything, about people, all of those things. So staying relevant for me is about learning. Excellence. Excellence. I love that word. I love that's the name of your podcast. I do help celebrate excellence of other women, and that's a big part of what I'm committed to do. But for me, excellence is pushed through confidence in a lot of ways. And so personally, I have had to work on confidence a lot. I think I always worked with excellence, but I didn't believe it. Somebody asked me today, well, are you visionary? And I always laugh at that question because I've been told all my life I'm visionary, but I never believed I was visionary. And so I've had to work on the confidence that I am visionary and that I understand what that means, even though I can get down in the weeds with the best of you and get everything done. Like I can do that. And also, I think for me, excellence, as I've become a more seasoned leader, has really been about being able to let go and understand that the team effort can be, the sum of the parts is important, that I'm not on an island. I put myself on an island a lot as a young business owner because there weren't many people out there who were doing it when I was doing it at 24 years old. And so I think I just told my age. But anyway.
We didn't hear it. We didn't hear it.
Nobody heard that. But I think doing things to help me feel confident. Winning awards, I put my team's work in for awards all the time. And we just won Small Agency of the Year in the U.S. Agency Awards for 2026. My team actually encouraged me to do that. And we just won nationwide. And that tells me we do excellent work and we are an excellent team. So I love those kinds of celebrations that help reinforce excellence. I'm not saying I think everybody needs to be just all about awards, but you don't always hear from everybody around you that everything is great and that you're doing good work or that you've made an impact. And in marketing, there's so much focus on impact being ROI and sales. And we have so much bigger impact. And so just continuing to find ways to find those impacts and celebrate them really, really has helped me create those habits of excellence, right? So
Great. I, wow. I'm sitting here and you've got my mind rolling right now. And I just want to say this for a leader to demonstrate, to encourage, to exhibit, to share wisdom, knowledge, experience, and to offer that and encourage that within the culture and ask that of their team, their staff at all levels for all different types of functionality in the organization is rare. So I commend you. And it's no doubt, my friend, that you received that honor and that recognition and that national award. Congratulations is
yeah,
what I
we
want to
just found out, like just in the last few days. So it's still spinning around us. We're super excited, and
love it.
so that's that tells us we've done something excellent here,
Yeah, love it.
and that feels really good. Yeah.
I honor you and your team. That's just
Thank
exciting and
you.
wonderful news. And here it is on this podcast that you're sharing that news. I'm loving it. You got to make sure
Good.
it's out there so we can definitely celebrate you. I
Thank
got a
you.
couple more questions for you though. Knowing what not to do, especially after 30 years of entrepreneurship, how has your ability to distinguish a genuine opportunity from a distraction changed?
Wow. Okay. So genuine opportunity versus distractions. There are so many distractions, but I actually have gotten much better at this. So how to take that apart is kind of an interesting question. I think some of it comes with the longer I've been in business and the more I've scaled and grown the business, the less time there is for distractions. So that helps, right? If you don't have time for distractions, you recognize them, I think, a lot quicker. Um, I still am distracted. Like, I'm just that kind of person. And so I love to try new things, but I look at those as learning opportunities. And so, um, you know, there's probably in my mind an opportunity in everything, even the distractions. But I will say with less time, you can hone in better on what to pay attention to and you have to realize what's important, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I don't have a magic potion for that one, though. I don't know that I can really deconstruct it, Lori. But I've
Love it.
definitely gotten better at it. I've
Yeah.
definitely gotten better at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
I
tough
love that
question.
you use that word. Yeah, deconstruction is a very valuable word, especially when we think about cognition of people in the workplace and the behavioral component. And you said take that apart. I think were your words at first, and now you're using deconstruction. It all is relevant when it comes to discernment and that experience and pattern recognition and strategic focus. So getting us back in this conversation to what you started with, and that was strategy. And
Right.
then also you mentioned confidence in just a couple of questions ago, and the confidence to be able to say no because it's not in
Right.
alignment,
Well,
or
and I think
perhaps it's a mistake.
intentionality, I
Uh-huh.
think intentionality is a big piece of it too, because if you've got a strong strategic plan and you know what you want to accomplish and you go after it with intentionality, there's really no room for those distractions, right? Like, so I think you got me there. Thank you. Thank you, coach. Put me in the game.
I got another one for you. I got another one for you. So, leading through this evolution, again, 30 years, my friend, 30 years, commendable. How has your personal leadership, and you touched on it just a little bit, how has your personal leadership philosophy shifted from when you first started your business to how you lead and consult today out there in the world with Hummingbird? Because it's a brilliant organization and you're doing some fascinating things. So, how has your leadership philosophy shifted?
So I'm not the micromanager I once was, that is for sure. If I was, I would not have been able to grow my business.
Uh-huh.
Somebody was asking me something earlier today, and I said, "Yeah, I'm the person that if you lay something down in front of me and there's a spelling error, I'm going to get honed in on it. It's just part of who I am. I'm going to go there." But I also, um, I was such a perfectionist when I started the business, and clients have made me realize I don't have to be. So,
Ooh.
yes, I need to strive for excellence, but excellence and perfection are very different.
Oh,
Excellence means,
goodness.
are we meeting our clients' goals? Are we helping them meet their goals? Are we doing what they need? That doesn't mean it has to be perfect. That means it has to work.
And, the,
And
and
so,
let's talk about that because there's a difference with perfectionistic behavior. It's defensive aggressive and we're reactive.
yeah,
And when we're focused on accuracy and precision, whoo, right? Excellence begins
right.
to just create that beautiful opportunity, that wave of creativity and innovation, and wonderful things come out of that.
I
And
agree.
so embracing all of this, right? You've grown, you've shifted, and you're still learning. That learning piece is still real for you. You're still that continuous learner. And at the same time, you can have that paradox where you're offering wisdom because you've had these 30 years of experience with clients, with stakeholders, with your own team members, and that's been dynamic. So we often learn more from our challenges than our triumphs. And I want you to get vulnerable. I want you to share a specific turning point in your 30-year journey that fundamentally redefined how you have have had this longevity and seen this progression and had this abundance through the years, even with uncertainty, even with circumstance and situations that challenge.
So I've shared this. It's easier to share now because it's longer in the past than it used to be.
Uh-huh.
But there was a time, and I was young, and I was newly married, and I owned a business, and I thought I was going to file bankruptcy.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't, because a wonderful attorney said to me, Wendy, if you didn't have the debt that you have today, would you have a successful business? And I said, yes, I would have profit. I would be successful. He said, then you're going to figure out how to pay that debt down. It's just going to take you a while. That really changed everything. I went away from that meeting. I was at a networking event with a local chamber, and I met a CPA. And I shared that story with him, and it had just happened. And he said, "Oh, I'll help you. I'll help you figure out how to do it." And he didn't charge me. He became a mentor to me. He helped me through so much of figuring out and understanding P&L, balance sheet. I mean, he helped me for many, many years with just like how I look at finance in a different way. And so that was a big change for me. The other change was just rediscovering the Hummingbird brand and doing for us what we do for our clients was one of the hardest things I've ever tried to get through. I mean, we always talk about cobbler's shoes, and it really was that. We were doing all this amazing work for other companies, but we couldn't figure out our own brand. And so I just really like had to take that step back and say, what is it that we are passionate about, that we love to do, that we make an impact, that we differentiate, and do it for ourselves and write that strategy and stick to it and create the goals and all of that. And now that's an ongoing activity. But the first time we had to stop and do that was definitely a pivot point for me because I had just not been able to get my head around how do I differentiate a full service marketing agency in a sea of millions of them in the country and walk into a room with confidence and explain how I'm different from all those other people who are sitting around me at the table. And I could do it for anybody else. So that was a big pivot as well, really getting our hands around that. And where I'm seeing that play out now is writing about my company. So whether it's for that nomination that we just did, or whether it's to go get a business loan, or to write about the company now, it is so much clearer how we differentiate from our competitors. So that took a while. Yeah.
I love that story because it sets the foundation for this part 3, and that's mentorship, legacy, and elevating women leaders out there. And this intentional mentorship. So you share that early on story of this CPA that came in and mentored you. You're deeply committed, and I know you. And just full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, we're both members of Enterprising Women, and we support a lot of efforts around young enterprising women and developing young women, developing women in the workplace. So Wendy and I met each other through this organization, and I just am in full admiration of her and what she does. And I appreciate the way that she represents herself and the way that how professional she is in the marketplace, and the way that she collaborates is just beautiful. So now that I've got this in this intentional mentorship topic, you are deeply committed to mentoring young women entering the business world. So what's the most critical piece of advice you find yourself giving the next generation of leaders today?
So for me, it's to recognize the help that is there. I was a young woman in business. I went to a lot of events. I knew a lot of people. So many people helped me, and I did not necessarily recognize it until later.
Uh-huh.
And then I look back and I see someone at a networking event today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person helped me in 1996 to work with a bank, or that person helped me in 1998 to figure out how to make payroll, or that person helped me realize that business valuation, and this would have been like 8 or 10 years ago, that business valuation is really impacted by what I do. These are all mentors. These are all people around me who made it their purpose to give me advice, whether I was realizing it at the time or not, the impact that it would have on me, or to give me help. And so I always want to give that back, more so today than ever. And we're working together on especially our Young Enterprising Women program. And I speak with young women at least once a week. Just young women who are referred to me, who are looking for a job, or are trying to get into marketing, or are already into marketing, and even some older women who are in the space, but they've had a different journey than I have.
Right.
And they want to talk about that. And I love that. I love mentoring women on, you know, how to navigate in this world. Whether it's AI, whether it's dealing with a management team that you're just not sure how to navigate, whether it's the way you communicate and you're not quite figuring out why you're not being understood in the workplace. I mean, there's all kinds of topics that come up,
Mhm.
as well as marketing topics that I can easily, you know, help people with. So I love that too.
And you extend from there. So the genesis of the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame. What inspired you to champion and found this organization, and why is public recognition so vital for women entrepreneurs?
So I was the president-elect for the National Association of Women Business Owners Greater Raleigh chapter here in the Triangle area of North Carolina. And I needed a big idea. Here we go. I
It
needed a
is.
big idea for my induction event because as president-elect, I had to do the induction event. And I wanted to set the organization, I wanted to set my year up for success. So I wanted to put a little bit of money in the bank. But as I thought about that organization, I joined that organization in 1995. And this is the room in Raleigh that when I walked into it, there were women, and I'm going to name them because I do that. Sheila Hale Ogle, Darlene Johns, Judy Faree, many others, Lana Calloway, many others, can't name them all, who, when I walked in the room, I wanted to aspire to have achieved things they had achieved. So when I was becoming the leader of that organization, I realized their stories were not being told. And these women were really amazing leaders before the internet. And so there just was not a lot of information readily available about how they got started and what their whole story was. Like you could find a recent press release or whatever, but you couldn't really find their stories and put them together.
Right.
And so that was part of what really inspired the Hall of Fame was I want to share those stories. I want young women to see what they can achieve. I take my daughter, Callie, with me to women business owner events. And when she sees these women, she can say, oh my gosh, like I could do that. I could be that. I could have that kind of success. These women are confident. They're leaders. You know, I want to aspire to be that. I wanted to bring that in a bigger way to the state. I also recognize that women do not take the credit for what we do. In North Carolina, we are growing businesses so fast. We are growing this economy. We are responsible for that. We
Yes.
don't think about it every day, but we are responsible for people's lives. We employ people. We support them and their families in so many ways, financially and otherwise, really otherwise. And we are wonderful leaders who make an impact. We give back to our communities. Oh my gosh, the women I know who give back to their communities. I think I give a lot to my community, but then I meet Monica Smiley for lunch and I realize my little piece of the puzzle is so small compared to the global impact that that woman has, to name another one, right? And so I wanted those stories to be told. We have them online. The videos are out there. We share them throughout the year, and then we come together to celebrate a new class of inductees each year. And really just like celebrate them, amplify their stories so young women can be inspired by these champions.
I love it. Absolutely. Thank you, by the way, for that energy and that effort and that commitment to that. It takes a lot to coordinate that every year and to ensure the trusted storytelling that you do with these women. It's very, very powerful. So, what still has to change after decades of progress? What barriers to capital, to networks, opportunity, visibility, and even influence do you see women business owners encountering? And which of those require women to navigate differently versus institutions and business ecosystems to change?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know you can answer this question. That's why I asked it.
so because I work and mentor with women in all different areas, not just women business owners, although that's a big part of it. I think the most work still really has to be made in the workforce and in our companies. One, where the respect level is still not, I think, where it needs to be. And I'm not, I, I only know certain stories, but I had my own, right? I had my own before I started my business. We all have a story about that. Um, I think from the side of capital, we just need to be more involved. We need to speak up. We need to be at the right tables talking about money. There are a lot more women in the financial sector now than there used to be, but we've got to keep moving into the financial sector and into the public sector. And I'm not a politician. I'm not in the public sector, but I definitely support women in those roles because they can make more of a difference. Um, and then I think taking risks, like
Yes.
women are somewhat risk averse because we're the caregivers in the world. And so being willing to take risk, being willing to make mistakes and learn, is really, really important because you won't learn the right lesson on how to go after capital, how to find the grants, how to find all of the opportunities if you don't just try and be willing to maybe fail a little bit along the way and keep at it. And then the last thing I will say on this is confidence. And I said that early on about myself. I think we have to continue to find ways to help build our confidence, express our confidence in the way that is effective. And, confidence comes in many shapes, sizes, colors, all of that. But as women, we need the same level of confidence that we see in the men who sometimes lift us up, a lot of times lift us up. Learn from them, embrace them. I have led so many organizations as a woman president that were all men, and I loved it because I could learn from their confidence. I could learn the way they worked a boardroom. I could learn the difference between the way I saw my women all trying to solve problems in the boardroom and the men going to play golf and solving the problem before they got to the boardroom. And there's a big difference. And
Yeah,
so
there is.
that
There.
taught me ways to work in the world of men and to try to understand them and to find confidence in my own leadership, that we are different, but we're all capable. We can all go out and tackle something and come to a great solution. So
I love that. Nothing is out there to hold us back.
right.
We hold ourselves back.
Yeah.
And nor are we victims to any labeling out there. And
No.
that's the beauty of all of this. And I love that you commented and made note to the contributions that the the opposite genders absolutely are supportive. So
Oh,
challenge these misnomers, challenging the conditioning of behavioral aspects that keep you stuck is important in order to be able to take those risks and to stretch your confidence into areas. I love that big ideas that you have because those big ideas sometimes you don't know everything, right? You
that's
don't
right.
have all the answers yet, but you step into it and you do it because you really taken time to ensure that those surrounding you are supporting you in ways that are very, very strategic and specific. I heard you mention earlier this networking piece, critical. And too often we have been networking and going out and eating and drinking and socializing instead of doing the strategic networking we need to be doing. And and I love that you mentioned networking as well, because
Yeah,
that
well, and
is important. Yeah, for women.
I do think when you ask how things have changed about me as a leader,
Uh-huh.
I've gotten much more intentional with how I network and what that means.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean an after hours activity of eating and drinking. It has more need and meaning. It has to, or it's probably not worth spending my time on, right? It's not an opportunity at that point. It's a distraction. We'll just go back to that question.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if I can be fit with family versus out there, yeah, I'm going to choose family.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. I love this. So, defining your legacy. The theme of this podcast is around lasting contributions. Maximizing excellence is about human flourishing in the workplace and this lasting contribution piece. So, when you look back at your branding work, not just your business and your advocacy for young leaders, for young women, for women in the workplace, your leadership and your commitment to marketing excellence through Hummingbird Creative Group. What do you hope is the ultimate footprint that you leave behind?
So this is going to be super simple, Lori, but my goal is always to to bring grace and joy to every situation I'm a part of. Um, I think there's just a lot of negativity in the world right now, especially, and we need to flip a switch, right? And so find joy in the family, find joy in the trees and the beautiful weather outside. Find joy in the people you work with. We're with them like all the time. And don't let life pass you by being irritated and upset and not giving other people grace for what they believe and what they're passionate about, because they have just as big a right to be passionate about whatever they got going on as you do. And we just all need to enjoy this wonderful life we've been given, right?
Agree
Um,
with you.
so,
That and it fuels that lasting contribution. And I imagine we're having this conversation many years from now. Right now, I mean, I'm just playing with you, and I can see it many years from now. Hummingbirds continue to create value. You've been creating space for grace. That's my term, space for
oh,
grace,
love it.
right? You women you've mentored are now opening the doors for others. Imagine that.
Yes.
Imagine that the Hall of Fame, it has influenced another generation, multiple generations of entrepreneurs. So, what would need to be true for you to say, yes, that was the contribution I was here to make?
I'm going to be really like personal and selfish on this one,
Uh huh.
but my daughter's success and the fact that I was a role model for that through the actions that I've taken on all of these levels
Uh huh.
will will be the footprint and the legacy that I will live or that I will leave behind. And so I'm just excited for her as she's moving into college this week and enters a new phase of life. And I'm just really excited to continue to serve as a role model to her and other women. I love the idea of multi-generational impact of what I'm doing, whether it's at work or through the Hall of Fame or where we're at home.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You truly are a steward, Wendy. You are a steward, and one notable, by the way, very notable steward in our community. And finally, after everything you've learned about business, about leadership, about branding, about people, What does it mean for you to maximize excellence?
Oh, I think just to continue to have excellence as a goal.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think there's no way to maximize it if you don't keep that as a goal, and continuing to take that energy and let it be amplified and grow um, towards excellence, and um, just encouraging other people to be excellent too, and surrounding you with people who have that same desire, whatever that word excellence means to them. And I think therein is where that whole micromanagement and perfectionism comes in. Is my idea of excellence is very different than maybe someone else's. But if I can inspire them to, like my team, if I can inspire them to achieve the excellence they want in their lives, or if I can inspire a young woman through the Hall of Fame to see excellence in one of these amazing women and go start a business herself or do something because of something she heard them say, then that amplification is so meaningful. And
Love
that
it.
way we maximize it, not just maximizing my own excellence. I want to maximize everyone's excellence.
It's where we co-create. It's where we become one, and together this excellence thrives and flourishes for everyone. And I love that. This has been a dynamic conversation, my friend, carving positive, lasting pathways for leadership, for women in leadership, for entrepreneurship and business excellence and success. And I appreciate your time and energy today and your deep, great thought leadership. So thank you, Wendy, very
Thank you,
much for
Lori.
being a guest on our show today.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us for Maximize Excellence. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe on YouTube, on Harris Whitesell Consulting's YouTube. Our podcast and our playlist is out there with hundreds of podcasts for you to enjoy. Share it with your network. Join us again for another inspiring discussion with leaders who are shaping the future. And so until next time, please maximize excellence.